Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the feature race at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Fillies and Mares going 5.5 furlongs in the $150,000 Poinsettia Stakes. Let's take a look at this field. Steve Asmussen has two in here, and they're both coming in very sharp form. Both the one high class and the six Topsy, they've won their last two starts.
Yeah, they both look very good. A little bit, though, different in running styles. High class draws the inside, has a fair bit of early speed, where when we look at Topsy later, was able to win last time out at Zia Park and closed from off of it. But a couple of others in here are interesting. Chandana on the outside of the Randy Morse barn. This horse has been claimed several times in a row for some big prices, $40,000 and $62,500, and has some really good races under her belt. So it is a field of seven, but I do think there's some intrigue with about three or four of the runners.
It's a short sprint, and there should be some speed in the race. We throw up our time form U.S. pace projector. High class went gate to wire last time out. I'm the Boss of Me has shown speed, and I would have to think she's fresh, returning off of a July layoff. I think those two are the strongest pace protagonists, but I wouldn't be surprised if a horse like Chandana or the four Margo in a bubble bath are close.
I agree. I think Margo in a bubble bath, as we've seen in her wins, especially this year, where she's gone 4 for 10. She kind of turned it around since her 2-year-old campaign. She's been quite forward, especially in her last two or three. And I'm the Boss of Me. I like that you pointed out is coming in this race off a long layoff. She's been able to race very well fresh in the past, even with several months off in between her races. And I think that probably was a break that she needed.
Topsy the six has the fastest time form U.S. late pace rating. Let's start things off with the number one high class, and she returned off a lengthy layoff as a completely new horse for Asmussen. 4 starts, 3 wins, and I thought she looked very good in an off-turf heat last time out at Churchill Downs. She just blasted to the front, kept on going in very professional fashion, and from the rail, her hand is kind of forced.
Her hand is forced, and I think that's okay with her running style. She wants to be forwardly placed. You mentioned she's really turned it around. You wonder if it was just development between 2 and 3. Another thing is she has raced with Lasix in those last 4 starts, not able to run with Lasix in this stakes race, but I would attribute it more to her just growing up and maturing, and I like her running style. I know she's been sort of first out of the gate in 3 of those 4 races, but even if she's sitting in second, I think the late kick that she has should really help her chances on Saturday.
Dealing Justice's last running line doesn't look particularly enticing, basically running 7th all the way around the track, but I think there are some mitigating circumstances. One, the poor break, and also a wet track. I think this horse is better on faster going. Claimed out of that race, this horse has a little bit of back class. Will probably have to step up a little bit to handle this tougher group.
I agree. Certainly going to need to take a step forward, but you go to some of the races in the summer at Prairie Meadows, and you see even the races last year at Oaklawn Park, or earlier this year, I should say, at Oaklawn Park. They're good performances. She's been able to get a nice closing trip from off the pace and get the job done. I felt like 2 starts back at Churchill, they had her more forward, and even then she raced pretty well to finish second, defeated by a length and a half. But I think we can see an improved performance from her in a new barn, and also just making that 3rd start off the layoff.
The 3 is I'm the Boss of Me. And again, this horse is returning off of a summer layoff. She was 4th in this race last year. You can argue that last year's edition of this race might be a bit stronger. Pretty Birdie was coming into that race in very, very good form and is a quick one. And I'm the Boss of Me didn't face a slouch last time out at Delaware. Alva Star has emerged as a very good 3-year-old filly sprinter. And I'm the Boss of Me was on the chase against her throughout.
And you can see even going down to the matron back in March at Oaklawn Park, she had to face Wicked Halo in her races since then. She's been in some tough spots. She doesn't always get the job done, as we know, but I think she's a major player. She likes to be forward, and sometimes you wonder if her running style works against her just because she's kind of in that hard-pressed chase mode in most of her starts. But I think off the freshness angle, she is intriguing because look at her last year. She was able to take that time off between April and October, came back with a big race, and as you mentioned, when she hit a race in this identical spot last year, the waters were deeper.
And the year before, when she graduated in her maiden race, she came off about a 7-month layoff. So as Ashley mentioned, I'm the Boss of Me runs very well fresh and should be right there when the field turns for home. Margo in a bubble bath steps up in class in extremely sharp form. This horse was claimed for $50,000 at Churchill in September, has won 2 in a row for the new connections, including this rich first-level allowance score at Oaklawn Park. This horse battled it out all the way and was very, very game to the wire.
I've been really impressed with her. I actually remember being on site when she scored her maiden victory, only at the $30,000 level. It It was an okay performance. She got it done, but you never thought she'd be where she is now, especially as you've mentioned, her recent form is excellent. The new connections claimed her for a good price, in several starts back for 50,000 for her to win both of those races in a row. I thought she's gotten nice trips just off the pace setters and has been able to mow down the pace late in those races. And we talked about it from the pace perspective of this race. She could be in a really nice spot early on.
She's storming the number 5 as an Arkansas bred that pulled off a minor upset 2 starts back against fellow state breds in the Rainbow Miss. They tried 2 turns with her last time out. It was just a very tough spot for her from a distance and class standpoint. But this is a tough spot from a class standpoint as well, and she's returning off of a lengthy layoff. I'm wondering if the connections are using this race as sort of a prep for state bred action down the road.
You'd have to think so, right? That might be the logic here. And I think the big thing with her, she's a little inconsistent in certain terms of her races. She'll have a decent effort, then it's a poor showing. I do think she wants to go a sprint distance. I do think the 5.5 probably suits her well. But as you said, these are just deeper waters than she's had to face in her other races at Oaklawn Park. So I think this is probably just a stepping stone on the path for sort of what her season will look like this year at Oaklawn.
The 6 Topsy hinted at a lot of potential earlier in her career, including a second-place effort in the Grade 3 Miss Preakness against the brilliant but ill-fated Maple Leaf Mel. She has come back into form in her last 2. Here's her stakes victory in the Zia Distaff, and she relaxed right off the pace, and she just blows by them in the stretch once she eases out into the clear. It was a nice inside-out closer's trip from Joel Rosario, but Topsy, I think, might get something to run at here as well.
Yeah, she'll need to. I mean, look at the fractions at Zia. They were certainly fractions that were hot enough for her to kind of unleash her late running style, and she gets the job done. Joel Rosario is in town. Steve Asmussen, they had kind of a big showing in that day with several winners throughout the program, but she's well traveled. She's been able to take her show to several tracks. I think if you go back to the races 3 and 4 back, maybe she didn't have things go her way or the waters were too deep, but I think this is a logical spot for her to kind of wrap up the 2023 season and then see what she can do as a 4-year-old.
9-time winner Chandana is an Indiana bred who scored 2 starts back at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, going 3/4 of a mile. Good tactical speed shown in this race by Chandana, who forges clear late with a strong quarter mile. Chandana was 4th last time out at Oaklawn, but again, it was a race over a muddy track, and I'm just not sure that's her best game.
Yeah, I don't think it's her best game at all. I don't think she likes an off going at all. I know she's won 2 races, but they were way earlier in her career. Her last 2 times over an off track, she hasn't fared well. And I thought her races before that effort, those 4 races in a row, they were all very solid. She had very competitive buyer speed figures of an 82 that I think would put her in the mix looking at some of the others in here. And I think another thing, we talk about Margo in a bubble bath. Maybe she'll be just a little further off of it, but she's gotten some really nice trips, a length or 2 off the pace. And I think in a 5.5 furlong race, you don't want to be too far off of it, and you might not want to be on the lead.
Well, let's take a look at our top picks for the feature race at Oaklawn on Saturday, and we both are going with the same trifecta. High Class has high speed, and we're hoping she can live up to her name, stepping up into the stakes ranks for the first time.
Talked about you might not want to be on the lead at 5.5. I think for her, it's okay. I think going further, she may have some distance limitations. Yes, she's been successful at 6 furlongs, but say 7/8, I think that might be a little far for her. And her recent form is just so strong. Christian Torres has been riding so well, and I just think she's probably the one to beat on paper.
Ashley's going 1674. I'll go 1673. It's the Poinsettia at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Good luck.